Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are doing The Breach.
The Breach.
All right, let me introduce to my crew, starting off with my co-host, Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm splendidly wretched.
That works. Also joining this week is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl. How you doing?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
That is.
Yeah.
You need a
Great.
shirt.
Yay.
I'm fabulous.
I'm fabulous.
I'm fabulous.
That's what I'll say, even if I'm not. That is all.
Also joining us this week is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr.
Hi. Oh.
No, don't do that.
Sorry.
Don't do that.
Many fingers.
No.
Hope you guys are doing well.
I was up until
here.
a minute ago. Now I'm freaking out. All right. When you see The Breach, you will know what that means. If you don't,
Yeah, this is true.
Think he's a loon.
Either that or you've been messing with AI. One of the two.
All right. Well, we are here to review The Breach. We are going to give you our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free. Then we'll get into a discussion about the film. We will get into spoilers there. There's a to be had. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5. Tiny little bit. And our favorite scene. So stick around for that. So we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, and share with the friend buttons. Each tiny little click will help us find more horror fans just like you. So please hit those buttons. Hit that subscribe button. Come back. Join us. Come back. All right, let's get into the CAD so we can get going on this. Yeah. The Breach 2023 from Raven's Banner, available on digital and VOD beginning July 11th, 2023. So it is out now. Synopsis: John Hawkins, chief of police, must investigate one last case when a mangled body with uncanny wounds washes up on the shores of Porcupine River. I just had to say it that way. Directed by Rodrigo Gudiño. No, but we'll go with that. Written by Ian Weir and Craig Davidson, based on the Audible original The Breach by Nick Cutter, which is interesting. The cast includes Allan, Hawco. I feel like I'm messing these up. Emily Alatalo, Natalie Brown, Mary Antonini, Wesley French, Adam Kenneth Wilson, and Alex Lifeson. It's Lifeson, right? Yes. Better known as the guitarist for Rush.
Oh, nice. Wow.
And the music is provided by Slash, who is also a producer.
Which is cool.
All right, let's find out.
Who was the guitarist for Rush?
Alex
Lifeson.
So which one was he?
Alex.
I've seen Rush in concert twice, but I don't know what I was too focused on Hurt.
I think he was the guy on the video screen, right?
The scientist on the video screen.
That makes sense.
It certainly does.
By acting ability, it makes sense.
Yes. All right. Well, whoa. All right. Let's find out what our first impressions were. Starting off with the one and only Crystal Cleveland.
Oh,
let us have it.
Okay. So, The Breach. Okay. Honestly, this movie is. This is a tough one. This is a tough one to explain because I didn't dislike the movie. However, I will say that it starts off kind of slow. The acting is oddly hit or miss. Like it's some people are great and some people are okay. And that's fine. It starts off slow. It's an odd story, and the way it's told is fine. It's chronological, and there's I'm having a difficult time. So
Yes.
basically I didn't like 45 minutes of the movie. And then after we get past that, I actually really started to enjoy the movie. That's what happened. Okay. So it's not even that it's like a slow burn. It's just, it just did nothing for me in the beginning. It didn't intrigue me. It didn't make me want to watch it further. But then when you start getting into more of the gore, I really enjoyed it. And actually, toward the very end, at the very end, I really liked it because I felt like they had this whole odd, like, Fulci zombie moment that I really loved. I mean, I know there were dudes in suits and I didn't even care. And I liked the ending. Very cool. Like, I know Doc loves those kind of like 70s endings. So, so I did enjoy that. But yes, it's inconsistent. That's what I would say about the movie. I do think I was entertained. It didn't upset me. There was nothing about it that made me go, ugh. It's a little bit of an odd story. And I don't want to give anything away. It does feel a little 80s-ish at points, but also not, because the story is way more coherent in that regard. I think it's shot well. There's some shots I really enjoyed. And I love the one actress, the one who plays the mother. I love her. I think she's fabulous. I don't.
The one that shows up later.
Natalie Brown.
Okay. Yeah, she's been in some stuff, and I think she's great. I really, really like her and everything that she's in. So, and I mean, the music was good. So see, Slash did his job there. I mean, I didn't have any issues with that. It wasn't like nothing jumped out at me too much. I kind of really liked the concept. It has this like spacey sort of interdimensional concept to it. Kind of, I guess it's kind of Lovecraftian or something. And there's a lot of body horror, which I love body horror. There's a lot of gore, but not necessarily the best gore as well. You just need to kind of go, okay, that's good. That's good. I'm sure it's not a super high budget film, but overall I was entertained.
So you like the last 15 minutes of an hour and a half movie. So you liked roughly 15, 16% of the film?
I probably like 30 minutes. It's longer. It was longer than that.
I thought she said after the first 45 minutes. And
yeah, I liked
okay. Yes.
Like I
Thank
didn't mind. Like once they started, really getting into the meat of the story, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's starting to unfold, and then you started seeing some things happening. And I think that the husband was super creepy and did a good job. Like, obviously, you couldn't like him. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Jeff Mohr, how you doing, sir? What was your first impression of The Breach?
Well, I love some weird interdimensional Lovecraftian science fiction machines.
Yeah.
So did you guys notice? Anyway, I didn't know this. Rodrigo Gudiño, the director, is the founding editor and publisher of Rue Morgue magazine.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Rue Morgue. Actually, I have an issue around here somewhere. Yeah, the one with Raw on the cover.
And I think I actually didn't recognize him at first, and I don't know why, but it's the same lead actor as we just did in Quicksand.
What?
Allan Hawco.
What?
Really?
What? Was it? Wow, he's good then.
What? No, he's not.
He most
You're giving
certainly
too
is.
much credit.
Oh my gosh, it is him.
He most certainly is. And I didn't recognize him at first, but I saw the credit.
I did not either.
I thought I recognized him from somewhere.
I felt like the way that they had him set up and some of the expressions he was making were a little bit like anyway, it felt like he would have been, he'd be really good in a comedy, I guess. That's what I was going to say. But I didn't have a problem with him. I know we're going to hear differently from somebody. I don't know who, but I didn't have a problem with any of the acting. I kind of like I liked both of the lead women. The one that played Meg, Emily Alatalo. I liked her. I liked Natalie Brown. We had the whole setting and everything. So anyway, I enjoyed it. There's something about it though, and I don't know exactly. I can't pinpoint it, but it seems it needs a little work to get smoothed out a little bit or something. I thought it was a good idea, but it just needs some polishing. And I love the creatures, but it seemed like there was some logic breaks there. I didn't totally get this whole like where all of them were coming from then at the end.
Those were the people he fed. Remember, you saw him start feeding people to the.
Spoilers.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
the ones out. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, I like them. I like them a lot. And I like the music, strangely enough.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll stop there.
Okay.
Because I don't want to give stuff away. I enjoyed it. It's not a great movie. It's got some flaws, but I'm having a hard time pinpointing exactly what it was. Something just all I could say is it needed some polishing or needed some smoothed over something.
I bet Christopher will tell us what it was.
Christopher will tell us exactly what it was.
but I won't agree with him.
What was your first impression of The Breach?
Well, first of all, I think this is the first movie we reviewed that's based on audio stories, or an Audible audio story. So so that's interesting in itself. I mean, it doesn't. If I'd had time, I actually wanted to listen to the audio story and see how it compares to this. The concept is very interesting. Boy, that's one of the worst openings. Horrible opening, which is like if they should have just went straight to the titles, it would have looked cooler because that's where the titles were cooler. I didn't like much of the acting. It's almost like a bad supernatural TV movie for a good part of it. But I will say this. When it got to it's almost like From Beyond meets The Thing a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost feel like the writer of that original Audible story, they must have been influenced a little bit by Stranger Things, because you have the detective or the chief of police is named Hawkins.
Oh.
And I swear that mom that showed the wife that shows up looks like Joyce Byers. She's even got like the same outfit and the same haircut as Joyce Byers from Stranger Things. And that kind of annoyed me. It kind of took me out of it. But I will say there's some WTF moments in this that if it had stuck the landing with the rest of it, this would have been one of the best films of the year. Because there's those moments I was like, oh God, because I think it has that kind of that Cronenberginess of it that was very interesting to me. Without giving anything too much away, with that when the person is changing as it goes along, and I made the finger joke, and I was like, oh God, there's a thing with an eye. I was like, oh crap, So, and I think once it sort of moves along and we see all these different variations. I mean, granted, the very end with the things that had the things that show up.
Yes.
You could sort of say, we need to put a hole here so they can look out the mask. So it's very obvious. But still, I give them credit for trying something that's out there and different. Because there's even a thing on a bulletin board. I was like, what the hell is that? That was like, oh crap. So I mean, I think those moments are the things that I'm still thinking about now. Which, luckily the acting wasn't as horrific as that stuff, but the acting is not great. I will say the wife that shows up is good, but that main guy looks like he walked out of he was doing like Leslie Nielsen throughout the whole movie. It annoyed me.
That's funny. Just don't call me Shirley.
Yeah. And so although I don't know, as a filmmaker, there's a part where they have them like going down a river on a boat, but they don't show the river because I'm hoping they had some kind of thing on tracks in the middle of the forest acting like they're on the river. Because it was the filmmaker in me was like, how can you pull that off without having to be on the river? But yeah, I did like some of the production design parts of it were kind of interesting, even though the keyhole is like so obvious they're going for there. But yeah, I did like elements of it. It did feel very 80s. That's why I said the From Beyond. It felt like them trying to do their own spin on From Beyond. But as much as you tried to explain this stuff, Crystal, I still don't. It still doesn't make sense how this whole thing transpired and stuff. And I feel like they probably could have done a whole lot more stuff, because I think when they showed some FX stuff, they really kind of like didn't go all the way, especially when they're showing the video of what happened to the little girl. I mean, you really could have like, but anyway, I think those moments are a reason to watch this film. Those WTF moments when the weird stuff happens and people start changing and stuff. That's the most interesting part of it for me. So yeah, I think the breach, it's I'll kind of have to agree with Crystal. It's like there's a good part of the movie I don't like, but I think once it got to those moments, I was like, oh crap, what just happened there? And sometimes I kind of wish they showed more of that, because they kind of they kind of, even when they were showing the body at the very beginning, they kind of didn't really show a lot of it. It's like it
didn't have to. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll stop rambling for my first impression. My hour and 50-minute impression.
No,
sorry.
That's an impression.
That's why I wanted to like. Oh yeah, totally. Oops.
So for me, it's very uneven, and tonally and structured wise. It's English. There are some great moments. There's a moment in the bed that is like creepy as heck, and there are a lot of interesting things happening. But like even atmospheric wise, for the atmosphere and the cinematography, it's uneven. I'll get into more about what I mean there when we get into spoilers, but and then I would say like a good portion of it is I'll just it's boring. It's boring. Oh my God. I was so bored for a good chunk of this film. I was just like, okay, move along. Let's have something happen here. Stop. We're going to walk through the woods. We're going to get to the house. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to go downstairs. We're going to try a door. We're going to go back downstairs. It didn't, the pacing was off, but when it worked, it kind of really worked really well. So to kind of get what Jeff was saying about, what he couldn't really put his finger on it. For me, it's uneven, and it probably needs another pass or two on the editing table. I don't know. It needs to be tightened up. Maybe there's some stuff missing. I don't know. I'm more in Christopher's camp about the acting, unfortunately. Not that, but again, at the same time, I agree with Crystal when it comes down to the last, half hour or so. Yeah, I was okay. I'm in. Let's go. But getting there was a bit of a challenge, unfortunately. So my first impression is that. And I want to elaborate real quick, and then we'll get into discussion. Right, so one of the things that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't know if I want to like be upset about it or give him credit for trying, is that the last fraction of the movie is like in broad daylight and everything's lit. And there's it's really bold to put your big man in suit creatures walking around out in the bright sunlight where you can't hide them and make them,
I loved it.
So
I loved that.
I was a little, I appreciated it. I really
They
appreciate it.
changed
But
the
I
color
did not.
grading up, and
Yeah.
it just felt very folksy, very 80s, very like, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
you didn't.
To
But
me,
yeah,
to me
that's
inside, I was like, I wish they had gotten there during the day to explore the house, and then all the shit went down at night instead of getting there at night, and then all the shit went down during the day. I just wish, because I think it would have been a little more atmospheric and a little more. It would bring some tension, bring some unknown into it. But at the same time, like I said,
think that was
what
the
you're saying,
point, so,
that it
yeah.
was so bold
Yeah.
and in your face, kind of give them credit. And the special effects, like you said, some were incredible. Others were like, yeah, that'll do. None of them were bad. I don't think any of the effects were bad at all, ever. And
I mean, we know how expensive that stuff is expensive.
And it looked a lot of it looked practical.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing. Well, and I think that's also the problem with shooting a lot of that in daylight, is that it kind of shows off the flaws in the effects. It especially when you have like black holes and stuff, because then you can tell that they just like spray painted what's supposed to be a hole and it's not really a hole. So I think that's also a problem too. It's like, yeah, if they had an extra budget, they can go in and add some extra CGI to add more depth and stuff. But then it just made it seem like, okay, I know that they're moving this way because they can only see one hole in the head. But again, yeah, I mean, because like that part where all those creatures or whatever in the woods, there's like 10 or 11 of them. That's a lot of people to put makeup, and a lot of that you can hide if like they're off in the background,
which they did.
But then you have like the close-up stuff where they're being shot in the head and stuff. And I think I'll talk about practical. It's like there wasn't a point where like, oh, that's CGI blood. It felt like a lot of it was, or at least they did a really great job of hiding it. It was. But yeah, a lot of the blood, a lot of this,
pretty much everything was
practical. Yeah. But then also there's sometimes limitations to that as well, because I mean, I think we're on Spoilerville, right?
Yes, we are in Spoilerville.
So when the mom comes out and she's kind of like gone,
I love
transformed with the little girl,
where they're combined.
They're combined, and I think
so cool.
Sometimes there's limitations to that because you can only put so many moving parts on something to make it seem like something's part of it's alive. So then it just looks like I just have like a piece of a girl on my face. But then the other things like that, when they looked at that guy's hand and it had all these different fingers moving on it, it creeped me out. I was like, oh crap, and also the part where he's looking in his eye and he's got like two.
Oh yeah, the double. Okay, now I feel like that was probably
that wasn't a practical
CGI,
thing.
Right?
That was CGI, but still, because I wasn't expecting, I was like, "Whoa, what just happened there?" Yeah. So yeah, those moments I think really shined for me, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Or even that, like at first I thought it was going to be the little girl's skin on that board, but then it was just all these weird moving eyes and stuff, and I was like, "That's the freakiest thing I've seen in a while." So those moments I think really worked well in trying to sell it, where they kind of melded sometimes either a little bit of CGI, but again, a lot of the practical stuff, I give them props for doing that.
Yeah. Jacob's transformation is probably the highlight of the film for me.
Yeah.
In the bed. So,
but I think the one thing effects couldn't help is that I felt like there was no chemistry between any of them.
There wasn't.
Oh, okay. It actually kind of was a little confusing with me as far as the relationships between the trio. Like, I wasn't sure who she was actually with, to be honest with you, because of how weird they were interacting, how odd it all felt. I was like, what is happening here?
They tried to explain it through dialogue and script, but no matter how much dialogue you get thrown into that, you can't make up for what's not there. And I didn't really see any connection between either of those guys and her.
Agreed.
Or even the wife.
The husband.
Husband who was just like full Jack Nicholson.
Are you talking about the Parsons?
Yes, the whole person. Yeah.
But
I thought they were fine. I understood what the relationships were. So I don't know.
I mean, I understood him, and I still didn't.
I just didn't see
Understand
anything.
him.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, because there's a love triangle, but I don't. It. They say one thing, but they imply something else, because they say that, in the dialogue, like Christopher was saying, that, they broke up, and then the chief came in and swooped her off her feet, and then now he's leaving, and they're all by themselves. But then the way it's implied up until they have that explanation is that it's kind of the other way around a little bit, like he broke up and then So I was real confused about timing and even to the point, like, who's got the baby? Who's the baby, right? Who's the baby daddy?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, that's what I'm saying.
I don't understand where you're getting at it. She was obviously broke up with Jake for a long time, and he was mad and belligerent.
Yeah.
And she had been with the chief, but the chief
Hawkins
apparently hadn't been talking to her for a couple months. As Jake asked him, how's things going with so-and-so, and he hadn't seen her, hadn't talked to her for a while. And then they had this conversation about he's leaving, and I don't know, he didn't want to ask her to come. And
well, I agree that the conversations finally cleared it up, but for a long time I wasn't sure about the
Here's
timing.
the truth.
Yeah.
I just didn't care.
Well, that might be true too.
That's why I didn't listen enough.
Oh,
I know, but it's
we did have to put up with this love scene that was like,
yeah. Although I don't know about you guys,
you
but
guys are making me raise my score.
Good. I'll lower mine just to spite you. No. Although I will say, who has a shooting range next to their gate, their little gated puppies? Who'd be shooting I don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
There's like when she's shooting her gun, and there's like a little thing of puppies right next to where she's shooting a gun.
At the very beginning when they goes to hire her.
It's like, that's not a really good place to have your puppies, is right next to where you're shooting a shotgun. But
that's hilarious.
Dear God, like, but really, it's got some good. I mean, see, that's the problem. If the beginning was better, this movie would be good.
Can you imagine if they took the cast from like From Beyond or Reanimator and put them in those roles? I mean, I think the biggest problem is probably just the actors weren't the right ones for the roles. But at the same time, the story is inconsistent and all over the place. That doesn't help either.
But I think we've been helped by some non-linear stuff happening on. Might have made it a little bit more.
But yeah, it's like, and I think it kind of frustrates me because I can see the concept and the elements there. And if it had been on the same level of some of those weird WTF moments, it would have been so great. But there's just parts where it just like, I don't really care what's happening here or what is happening here. They either overcommit or don't commit. It's very wonky throughout, and I think that's the biggest problem. It's like they breach from their too much.
They breach. One last thing before we wrap things up, Jeff. The science, how wonky is it?
Well, they made a machine.
They made a machine
that does stuff.
That does the breach
and brings things. The science is non-existent. It's just. I mean, it might be in the story. Who knows? But that's okay. I mean, the old line about how any significant advancement in science looks like magic to the people before.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
And
trying to explain it. I mean, God dang, I love Star Trek, but sometimes I get tired of all the techno mumbo jumbo they stick in there.
This one they're really reserved. They didn't really explain anything.
No. And that's it. That's Joseph Perry science fiction. He's like, I don't really want to. I just want surface stuff. So here's what's happening. I see a bunch of goofy things. You knew what was happening. It's going into another dimension. It was creepy. It reminds me of a book. And I always get the title wrong. Something about running water by William Sloan. Edge of Running Water, I think. it's a really creepy interdimensional thing from clear back in, it's like 1940 or something like that.
Wow.
But it's to me, it had a similar feel, and I thought the effects were, I'm going to say, 95% excellent. There was a few of those elevated daylight shots from the outside that looked like, people with shit hanging on them, it just didn't quite make it. But I'm willing to give them that. The rest of it I thought was excellent.
All right.
Explosion was a little wonky.
There you go. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. And Crystal, you're up first.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 3.5. And I'm going, my favorite scene, there's a few things I really like, but I did love the mother-daughter combo. I loved it. Like, I really thought that looked really good. I thought it was creepy. I thought it was sad. I mean, you kind of knew what was happening, when she puts her hand out and then you see the other little hand, and it was probably best case for that mom anyway. That's all she wanted was her little baby girl, and I guess she got it. So good for her.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Jeff, what is your score?
Did you give it a score?
A 3.5.
3.5.
Mm-hmm.
See, now it's anyway.
3.5. I said I liked it.
I know.
I mean, you know what? You can poop all over something and still enjoy it and still like it.
Well, but I don't think it's fair to the movie to spend all their time pooping on it and then give it a positive score. That's.
But we talked about the effects.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
you poop on something.
From the person who said there was poop hanging from.
One thing. I said one thing.
A poopy thing.
Oh, and I was going to mention too, the effects guy, at least what's listed in IMDb, is Daniel Baker. Did prosthetics and creature effects, and I saw he did some work on the original Becky, the first.
Oh, good.
Okay. That explains.
But anyway, I enjoyed this, and it's. I don't know what else to say other than I felt like when it was over, I didn't know why I didn't enjoy it more. So maybe even kind of along with what Christopher said, the story and the effects and stuff made me feel like it should have been, pushing top 10 or something, but it doesn't quite make it. So I'm giving it a 3.5 too. It's and favorite scene, Crystal took mine, so I'm going to take when they finally take the cover off the board on the wall. That
very good.
Yeah,
very good.
It's like let's take a cannon and spray body parts on the wall, or a spray gun, and then have them look at you weird. Anyway, it was creepy. That whole upstairs thing was creepy. They're always upstairs. They're always in the attic.
Don't ever go
Yeah.
upstairs. Don't go upstairs.
Absolutely.
Especially if there's a big ass keyhole.
Yeah, don't go upstairs with the keyhole.
Don't
Let's be literal with our doorway to hell.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Jeff. Even though I don't like parts of it, there's parts of it that shine. I think for me, I said this before, it's like the visuals of something could be very outstanding, even if I don't like the story or the characters. And I think this is like some probably. I mean, I definitely compare this to some of the stuff from the '80s, to where you remember it for the effects parts. You may not remember it for the best acting, because there's a lot of bad acting in '80s films as well.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a huge fan of '80s films.
Yeah.
So you remember the butt face in Society or things like that, even if it might not be the best film. But so I will give this. You know what? What the hell? I get a 3.5 because I think even though I didn't like parts of it, we watch, all the films we watch, I'm still thinking about those moments. And I think if you can make a film that can impact you in that kind of way, they've done a great job. You know what I mean? So even if other things didn't work, or even if the story doesn't really work, and I think for me, you know, like Jeff said, I mean, like, man, there's so much potential in this. Like, if only things had come together a whole lot better, this would have been in like top 10 of the year. But as for favorite scene, there's a lot of scenes I could pick, you know. Yeah, it's just that when they reveal that hand and the little tiny fingers are moving on it, it just creeped me so out. I was like, oh, what is happening? Yeah, and that's like, I don't know, you know, it's funny because I love David Cronenberg stuff, but sometimes body horror really bothers me, you know, and even there's a lot of trypophobia in this as well, which is holes and stuff in faces. So, and there's, yeah, with him transforming and stuff. But yeah, that hand thing just really stuck with me because like it would have been different if it just been like a rubber fingers on it, but they had like little fingers moving. And I was like, oh, stop, turn away, run away. So yeah, that's probably my favorite or scene that made me ball up in a fetal position and cry.
Fetal position. All right. Well, all right. Prepare yourselves. I'm gonna give you exactly what I wrote down.
Okay.
3.5.
There you go.
Yes. So but for me, it should have been a 4.5.
Yeah.
To me, you know, with some urgency and some chemistry, you know, it could have been there, right? So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm giving you my piece. I probably threw a little too much at it than I really meant to, because I didn't get a chance to really, you know, jump on the stuff I really loved. So my favorite scene is the transformation scene for Jacob, and in particular, because Christopher's scene is kind of the beginning of it when it starts revealing itself. But in particular is when the face comes out of his face, just how they did it, right? Because you could see, you know, there's kind of, you know, the Jacob's face becomes a bit translucent, and you can see another thing coming through, and then it kind of starts like with the cheek and eye where he got that bite from the bee, and it just comes, just pops open and comes sliding up out of it, and I just went, oh, okay, that's gross. Yeah. So I really like that, the whole bed scene. The guy was trapped in there and he couldn't get through the door.
That effect was really great with that face coming off.
Yeah.
Clearly, we all think people should watch it. So.
Oh yeah, I think
it's for the effect.
Horror fans are gonna love. Yeah, if you're a horror fan, you like Gory, you're gonna love this film.
The practical effects make this film stand out among a lot of the films that we've watched so far this year.
But just give it 30 minutes. Give it 30 minutes to get into some stuff. And yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's our extended review of The Breach. It is out now on VOD. So check it out and leave your comments down below. What did you think about it? Love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
Jeff, Christopher, Crystal, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Always fun.
All right. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good evening.